and learning about who Jacob was, what he was like, and God's dealing in his life. We want to see, was Jacob someone who was worthy of God's love, or was he a little different? Was he someone super special, or was he someone like you and I? Sarah, can you? So we want to talk about who was Jacob. We want to learn about who Jacob was this morning. And in order to do that, we're going to put together a little family tree. Back a few slides. Yes, back. Okay, yes. So we're going to be going and looking at Jacob's family tree. Jacob was part of a very special family. He wasn't just born into any random family, but he was born in a very special family that we find in the Bible. And for those who saw the little preview, who do you think, who was Jacob's grandfather? Does anyone know? Your name? Adriana. Yes. Jacob's father was Abraham. Sarah? Yes. And Abraham was married to someone. Does anyone know who Abraham's wife's name was? Who can tell me? Sarah. Good job. Yeah. Sarai. Yeah. But then God changed her name, right, to Sarah. And so Abraham had received a promise from God, right? Abraham had received a promise for a son, a child, someone who could carry on his family's name. But unfortunately, if we know the story of Abraham, we see that Abraham went about it the wrong way. Instead of waiting on God's promise, Abraham ended up having, I'm so sorry. Abraham's wife had given him her servant, right, to have another child with, and her name was Hagar. And Hagar and Abraham had a child together, and their son was named, does anyone know? Is that right? Ishmael, yeah, Ishmael. So the firstborn of Abraham was Ishmael. Now, we're not going to be talking about Ishmael and his family today, but I want you to pay attention. Ishmael was the firstborn. Very important, a very important word to remember, the firstborn. But now we're going to be seeing the son of promise, the one who God had promised to Abraham, and the one who would carry on the blessing and the birthright in Abraham's family. Does anybody know the name of the son that God had given to Abraham and to Sarah? Isaac. Oh, we got people paying attention this morning. I guess we're awake. Yeah, we have Isaac this morning. Thank you, Sarah. Isaac was born to Sarah and Abraham. I know we're going a lot into the history of them, but we want to pay attention this morning. Now we're going to be talking about a different part of Jacob's family, because we still haven't gotten to Jacob yet. We don't see him up there, right? Where's his name? So we saw one of Jacob's grandfathers. The other grandfather, his name was Bethuel. Can everyone say that with me? Bethuel? Bethuel, yes. Now Bethuel had two children. One of them was named, can you go to the next part? One of them was named Rebekah, and the other was named Laban. Now, Rebekah was married to, guess who? To Isaac, And Isaac and Rebekah had two children. Oh, we're getting there. We're getting so close, guys. Can anyone name to me the two children? We're going to go for one name. We're going to go with the older son of Rebekah and Isaac. Esau. Very good. Esau. And now, finally, at the very end of all this, we see who is the last one there. What's the last name that we're talking about this morning? Oh, it already says it. So can everybody say it on three with me? 1, 2, 3. Jacob. So who are we learning about this week? Jacob, right? Yeah, but we're going to be looking at God's story in the life of Jacob this week. So if we're going to, can you go to the next slide, Sarah? So we're going to be looking at the life of Jacob through the book of Genesis. And I'm going to be reading to you in Genesis 25, because this is where we find the story of Jacob. Now, in Genesis chapter 25, in verse 19, it says, this is the genealogy of Isaac, Abraham's son. And actually, can you go back to the slide with all the names on it so we can follow along? It says, this is the genealogy of Isaac, Abraham's son. Abraham begot Isaac, and Isaac was 40 years old when he took Rebekah, his wife, the daughter of Bethuel, the Syrian of Paddan Aram, the sister of who? Rebekah was whose sister? Can anybody see it there? Laban. It says the sister of Laban, the Syrian. Now Isaac pleaded with the Lord for his wife because she was barren. And the Lord granted his plea, and Rebekah, his wife, conceived. But the children struggled together within her, and she said, if all is well, why am I like this? So she went to inquire from the Lord. So can we see Jacob and Esau? There was a special name for those two. They were born at the same time. What do we call those?
Twins.
Twins, right? Yes, so we have twins that were born together, and it says that in the womb, in Rebekah's womb, right, when she had the babies together, they were struggling even before they were born. Now it says in that she inquired from the Lord in verse 23, and the Lord said to her, 2 nations are in your womb. 2 peoples shall be separated from your body, and one shall be stronger than the other, and the older shall serve the younger. So when her days were fulfilled for her to give birth, indeed there were twins in her womb. Afterward, it says, and the first came out red. Who was the first? Does anybody remember? Who was the first? Can we say it out loud? 1, 2, 3. Esau. Esau was the first, right? And it says that he came out red. He was like a hairy garment all over, so they called his name Esau. Yes? And afterwards, his brother came out, and his hand took hold of Esau's heel. Sarah, can you go one more? Yeah. And so just as Esau was born, it says not long after, Jacob came out immediately and caught what? Esau's heel. What does that mean? That means that Jacob was immediately right after Esau. He didn't come 5 minutes later. He didn't come 10 minutes later. Esau was born, and right behind him was who? Jacob, right? Jacob was right behind him. He wanted to be first. He wanted to be the firstborn. Even as a little baby, he wanted that. Why is it so important to see who was firstborn? So we want to look at the importance of who was firstborn. Sarah, can you go one more? So firstborn, the person who was born first. Why is this so important? What the order is of someone who was born first. One of the most important things in the Bible we're going to talk about is the birthright. Now the birthright was very special. It was something reserved specifically for the one who was born first. Who here has older siblings? Ooh, we got a lot of younger. Who here was the firstborn in their family? Ah, we got some special kids, right? Yeah? We're all special, right? But some of us were born first. And the ones who were born first have this birthright. This birthright was a claim to an inheritance. An inheritance is what's passed down from when their parents would pass away, right? What they would leave behind. And in Deuteronomy, it says that the firstborn had a special right, this birthright, that gave them a double portion of the inheritance that they received from their parents. So they received more just because they were born first. Who was born first? Esau or Jacob? Esau. Esau, right? Oh, okay. So Esau has the birthright. Okay. Can we look at the next one? There was also another right that the firstborn had, and that is the blessing. Can you go 2 more, Sarah? We saw that the birthright gives them the right to a double portion, right, of the inheritance. And we also see, I'm going to go to Genesis in chapter 48 to give an example of what a blessing was. When the parents were older, right, and they knew that their time was coming, that they would pass away soon, they would give a blessing to their children, and to the firstborn, they got the best blessing of all. So this is an example of a blessing that we see in Genesis. And he blessed Joseph and said, God, before whom my fathers Abraham and Isaac walked, the God who has fed me all my life long to this day, the angel who has redeemed me from all evil, bless the lads. Let my name be upon them and the name of my fathers Abraham, that's a special name, right? And the name of Isaac. And let them grow into a multitude in the midst of the earth. What does that all mean? Sarah, can you go one more? That means that the firstborn gets to carry this special name for the rest of the family. They were the one who carried on the legacy. They received, it says here, that they carried on the name of Abraham and the name of Isaac and the name of the fathers that came before, right? They were the ones who carried it on. They were the only ones. The ones who were not, or who did not have the birthright, who did not have the blessing, they did not carry on the name. Do we remember the children of Abraham that were Ishmael and Isaac? Yes? Who was born first, Ishmael or Isaac? Ishmael, right? But what happened? He wasn't part of God's promise. And so he did not receive the birthright. He did not receive the blessing. And we're not learning the history of Ishmael's family. Instead, we're learning about Isaac's family. So we see that the birthright and the blessing doesn't just go to the firstborn, but there are things can happen that can change that, right? And we're going to see that today. So in our terms, you and I, how can we relate to this? The firstborn, inheritance, the family name. Guys, we're kids. What does it mean to be the firstborn in our families? Can you look? Can you show me two more slides? This is what the firstborn looks like sometimes, right, guys? Yeah? Someone who has special privileges. Sometimes we treat the firstborns as, the most special ones in our family, right? They get all the best presents, they get all the best clothes, right? And for the ones that are not born first, me, I'm the middle one in my family. I know what that's like, right? What do we get? Do we get the best, do we get the most newest clothes? No, what happens sometimes? We get some hand-me-downs, right? We get the toys that they used to use, right? Oh man, we look at those firstborns and, we want to be them. We wish that we were the ones that were born first. And guess what, guys? Jacob was the exact same way. Jacob, he lived for that birthright. He wanted it so bad. That's all he worked for. We see in the passage in Genesis. Can we turn to the next one? In Genesis, in chapter 25 and verse 27 and 28. I'm going to read here. Because it talks about as Jacob and Esau were growing up, it describes them and the way that their father saw them. And the way that their father saw them, he picked favorites. And who do you think that Isaac chose as the favorite one of the family? Esau. Yeah, right? So in chapter 25 and in verse 27, it says, I'm in the wrong book. I'm so sorry. And in verse 27, it says, wrong chapter. It says, so the boys grew, and Esau was a skillful hunter, a man of the field. Esau was a strong man. He was one who went out, and he hunted. He got food for the family, and he made special food for his dad that made him Oh, you are my favorite. Esau, you are the best one. Now, how does it describe Jacob? It says here, and Isaac, it says, but Jacob was a mild man dwelling in tents. Jacob, he wasn't the same. He was a little quiet. He was a little shy. And Isaac, it doesn't say that Isaac loved Jacob the way that he loved Esau. In fact, in verse 28, it says, and Isaac loved Esau because he ate of his game. It says, but Rebekah loved Jacob. Not that Isaac loved Jacob, but that Rebekah loved Jacob. This was a boy who didn't feel loved by his father. This was a man that was growing up that didn't have the attention that he felt that he needed from his family. Sarah, can you go one more slide? A little bit more? Yeah, they're just there. Jacob was unloved. He felt unwanted. A couple more. Jacob felt like he was rejected. He was left out. Has anyone ever felt like that before? Maybe they're in their families, maybe in their friend group, maybe at school. Have you ever felt that way? I know I felt that way. I felt that way before. Pushed aside. Two more. An afterthought. Maybe, no one really cares about what I'm thinking or what I'm feeling. Jacob felt almost undeserving of love. That's how Jacob felt, because he always felt like he was in second place. He felt like he could not please his father the way that his father wanted him to be. I know some of you raised your hands today about feeling like this. Sometimes we don't want to admit it, but we do. We have these feelings of feeling unloved, like we aren't worth other people's love. But today we're talking about God's true what? Riches. True riches, right? And we're talking about today that God is love. God is love. Can we all say it again? 1, 2, 3. God is love. Oh, but this is so depressing. We're talking about feeling unloved and unwanted, rejected, undeserving of love. How is it possible that Jacob, who felt like this, could experience God's love? How is it that you and I, who truly we don't deserve God's love, but we get to experience the true riches of God's love and see that God is love. God is love. Can you go to one more? So we're going to read here in Genesis 25 in verses 29 through 36. And we're going to see the ways in which, can you go one more? The ways in which Jacob was so desperate for attention, so desperate for love, that he went about it the completely wrong way. He wanted it so bad that he wanted Esau's birthright, and he wanted Esau's blessing. And he would do anything to get them because he wanted to feel that love. So in verse 29, it says, now Jacob cooked a stew, and Esau came in from the field, and he was weary. And Esau said to Jacob, please feed me with that same red stew, for I am weary. Therefore his name was called Edom. But Jacob said, sell me your birthright as of this day. And Esau said, look, I'm about to die. So what is this birthright to me? There was a transaction that was happening, right? One was going to get the birthright, and the other was going to receive what? Was it gold? Was he going to get gold in exchange? Was he going to get untold riches? No, what was he going to get? What was Esau going to receive for the birthright? Blessing. No, not blessing, right? It says a red stew, a bowl of soup, guys. Do you think that Esau appreciated his birthright? Did he value his birthright? Did he say that? Did he treasure it? It doesn't seem like it, right? He gave it away for a bowl of stew. It says, and Esau said, look, I am about to die, so what is this birthright to me? And then Jacob said, swear to me as of this day. So he swore to him and sold his birthright to Jacob. So now we can see here, right? It says that Jacob now, he checked it off. He's got the birthright. That's his. It says, and Jacob gave Esau bread and stew of, he threw in bread in there. And he gave a stew of lentils, and he ate and drank, arose and went his way. Thus Esau despised his birthright. Jacob got what he wanted, right? Oh yeah, he figured it out. He found a way to trick Esau into giving him the birthright, right? Can we go into the next passage, Sarah? The next slide? Because we're going to look at the next passage in chapter 27, where it speaks about Jacob now wants to go after Esau's what? Blessing. Yes. Now it says, it came to pass when Isaac was old and his eyes were so dim that he could not see, that he called Esau his older son and said to him, my son. And he answered him, here I am. Isaac is getting old. Isaac has lost his eyesight, and Isaac is knowing that now is the time to give the blessing to his children. So he calls over Esau, and he says, come. And he says, behold, now I am old. I do not know the days of my death. Now therefore, please take my weapons, your quiver and your bow, and go out to the field and hunt game for me, and make me a savory food, such as I love, and bring it to me, that I may eat, that my soul may bless you before I die. So Esau Esau was talking to Isaac, and Isaac said, okay, I need you to go hunt for me. I want you to make me a special meal so that I can enjoy it, eat of it, and I will bless you before I die, before I pass away. And so Esau said, okay, I know where to go. I'm going to go out and I'm going to go hunt. But something happened. Rebekah, the one who loved Jacob, Rebekah heard what was going on. And she planned with Jacob together and said for Jacob to go instead of Esau. Why? Because Isaac was what? He was blind, right? He couldn't see that well. It says that his eyes were dimming. So he could not see and tell who Jacob was. There was only one problem. Esau was a very hairy man, right? Jacob was not. So how was Jacob going to trick Isaac into giving him the blessing? Well, he schemed with Rebekah. They worked together, right? And they made him fur, right, to cover his hands and feet. And Jacob worked hard to get to that blessing, right? He came and he spoke to Isaac, and he told him, here I am. And he said, it's me. I am Esau, right? He pretended, he lied. There was a problem. Jacob didn't sound like Esau. So Isaac said, I hear you saying that you're Esau, but you don't sound like Esau at all. That's kind of weird. And then Jacob did something pretty terrible. He ran after that blessing so much that not only did he trick his father, he lied to him, he also used the name of the Lord in vain. Because Isaac had asked, hey, Esau, I just sent you out. Why are you coming back so quickly? How is it possible that you could come, hunt, and make the meal? How did that happen? And Jacob's response, Jacob's response to him in verse 27, he said, are you really my son Esau? And he said, I am. He said, how is it that you have found it so quickly, my son? And he said, Jacob's response, because the Lord your God brought it to me. Jacob was so desperate that he would lie using God's name to say, I got this because the Lord brought it to me. Guess what ended up happening? Jacob took the blessing. That was his. He got what he wanted. But what kind of person was he? Who was Jacob? He was a liar. He was a bad person. Can you go to the next one? A manipulator, right? Someone who tricks people. He was a schemer. A trickster, right? Yeah. He was a selfish man. Who here thinks Jacob was lovable? Who here thinks that Jacob had lovable characteristics? Who wants to be like Jacob? No. I don't want to be like Jacob, right? Jacob was an unlovable person. Guess what, guys? You and I, we're like Jacob. You and I, unfortunately, the truth is, maybe we're not liars and manipulators like that, but we do tell little white lies sometimes, right? We do say mean things to our friends. Yes? Do we disobey our parents? Maybe once or twice. Do we fight with our siblings? Oh, yeah. I saw a lot of people with older sisters and brothers, right? Do we fight with our siblings? Yeah, I know we do. Jacob, it says from the womb he was struggling and fighting with his brother. Guys, we're just like Jacob. The unfortunate truth is that in Romans 3:23 it says, it says that, can we all read it together? For all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. That's us. You see that? The finish line? Oh, did they make it? No. Nuh-uh. They fell short. They did not meet the mark. That's us, guys. Romans says that all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. That's you and me. That's every single one of us. None of us have hope to be able to make it across that finish line. But guess what? There was one. There was one who made it. There was one who was able to please the Lord, and his name was Jesus. Jesus came into our lives. Jesus showed himself to us. Can you go to the next slide? Can you go like one by one as I read? God sent his perfect son to take on punishment that we deserved. Can we stop there? Oh. God sent his perfect son to take on punishment that we deserve. Does anyone know what the name of that is? There's a name for this. This is called mercy. When we deserve punishment, and guys, we deserve punishment. Have we all sinned before? We have, right? The Bible says that all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. And for that, there is a punishment. And the punishment that the Lord has set is death. That is the payment for sin. So all of us, everyone who has sinned, their punishment is death. But it says that his perfect son was sent to us to take our punishment for us when we deserved death. That is called mercy. And can you go to the next few parts? And instead, he showed us a love that we don't deserve. Jacob was undeserving of that love. You and I, oh, guys, we are undeserving of that love. The true great riches that we see, guys, we don't deserve it. But God gave it willingly. God gave it abundantly to you and I. And God showed that love even to Jacob. That's a love that we don't deserve. That, guys, that is called grace. Grace is so abundant. This love that we could not afford, that we could not deserve. You and I, we can never make it to that finish line. You and I by ourselves, we can't. But only through Jesus Christ, the one who is perfect, the one deserving of all love in us, God will love him in us. He is the one that he is pleased in, not you and I.
Mr. David, can I ask a question? So I just want to make sure that we're getting this. Is everybody here? So Jacob did not deserve love.
No, he didn't deserve love.
Because he was a liar Anybody else remember something else? He was a manipulator. That's a $5 word. He was a, Sarai? A schemer. And he was, anybody else?
A selfish man.
You guys.
Look at
So
that.
that means he didn't deserve God's love?
No, he did not.
But Jesus did get God's love because Jesus was perfect. Okay, so I'm getting this idea that grace is something that we don't deserve.
Yeah.
A love that we don't deserve?
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Thank God for that. Thank God for that love that he gives us when we do not deserve it. You and I, we don't measure up. We don't make it to that finish line. Only through Jesus Christ, only through the only perfect Son that came to die on the cross for us, can we receive God's love. And we thank him for that. It says in Romans, we saw that Jacob wasn't loved by Isaac, right? Instead, it says that God, just as it is written in Malachi, God said, Jacob, I have loved, but Esau I hated. God showed Jacob love. And we're going to be seeing that the rest of this week. We're going to see how God dealt in Jacob's life, and he dealt with a man who was a deceiver, a trickster, right? A selfish man. God worked in his life, and God showed him that love that Jacob did not deserve. That same love that you and I can receive if we come to know Jesus. So we're going to close off today with this memory verse. Can we all read this together? We're going to read it a couple of times. Ephesians 1:6. To the praise of the glory of his grace, by which he made us accepted in Jesus Christ. This is a memory verse, right? All right, let's take it off. No, I'm kidding. We're gonna continue repeating, right? So let's read one more time. Ephesians 1:6. To the praise of the glory of his grace, by which he made us accepted in Jesus Christ. In us, he accepted us as we are, just us? Who says yes? That's not what it says. He made us accepted in who? In Jesus Christ. Not the way that we are, not in our sin, but rather in Jesus Christ. And in Jesus Christ, we are changed and made new. We find true riches in Jesus. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, God, for your undeserved love towards us.